Ladies and gentlemen, friendship, among the many relationships we navigate in this life, holds a peculiar and almost paradoxical position. It is both deeply ordinary and profoundly extraordinary. Unlike the bonds we share with family, which are born of necessity, or the relationships of romance, which are often shrouded in passion and longing, friendship emerges freely, unbidden, and without obligation. It is a relationship that exists, as it were, in its own realm, unencumbered by societal expectations or natural compulsions. To understand the nature of friendship, one must first see its voluntary character. A friend is not thrust upon us by circumstance or blood, rather. A friend is chosen. This very act of choosing imbues the relationship with a purity that is both rare and precious. While other relationships may demand loyalty out of duty, friendship asks for nothing but the quiet recognition of kindred spirits. It is, in a sense, a meeting of equals, where the barriers of status, background, and age dissolve in the light of shared understanding. There is a sacred ordinariness to friendship that often goes unnoticed. It does not clamor for attention or demand grand displays of affection. Instead, it thrives in the simple act of being together, of walking side by side in thought, conversation, or even silence. Friendship, as it were, is like a melody played on familiar strings. Its beauty lies not in complexity but in its resonance. It is not bound by the ticking of the clock or the changing of seasons. It exists as though in a timeless space, unaffected by the ebb and flow of life's chaos. Yet, for all its simplicity, the nature of friendship is profoundly intricate. It requires an alignment of souls, a mysterious harmony that cannot be manufactured or forced. Friends are often discovered, not made, as if drawn together by an invisible thread woven by the Creator. This discovery is often sudden, like a light breaking through the clouds, when two individuals find themselves saying, "You too? I thought I was the only one." In that moment, the world becomes both smaller and larger. Smaller because we see our experiences reflected in another, and larger because the connection opens new vistas of thought and feeling. Unlike many relationships, friendship is rooted in what is shared, not in what is needed. A friend is not sought to fulfill a role or to meet an obligation, but to accompany us in the journey of life. It is a companionship born of mutual delight in something outside ourselves, whether it be a shared interest, a common cause, or even a shared sorrow. It is this outward focus that gives friendship its unique quality, for it draws two people together not by staring at each other but by standing side by side, looking outward toward a common horizon. This outward focus also protects friendship from the possessiveness that often mars other relationships. A true friend does not cling or demand exclusivity but rejoices in the other's freedom to form additional bonds. Friendship is not diminished by the presence of others, but is enriched. For each new friend brings a fresh perspective, a new facet of the world that can be explored together. In this way, friendship is both individual and communal, a delicate balance that few other relationships achieve. To speak of friendship is also to speak of its fragility. It is a bond that must be nurtured, not with grand gestures but with consistent acts of thoughtfulness and understanding. Misunderstandings, neglect, and selfishness can erode even the strongest of friendships, for it is a relationship built not on obligation but on trust and mutual respect. And yet friendship is also resilient, capable of weathering storms and healing wounds when both parties are willing to return to the shared foundation that first brought them together. Friendship is, in essence, a reflection of the highest virtues of humanity. It calls us to be honest, to be vulnerable, to be better than we are. It challenges us to step outside of ourselves, to see the world through another's eyes, and to celebrate the joys and bear the burdens of another's life. In friendship, we find a mirror that reflects not only who we are but who we can become. It is both a comfort and a challenge, a refuge and a call to action. Loneliness is a condition that touches the very essence of human existence. It is not merely the absence of companionship or the silence of an empty room. It is something far deeper, a gnawing ache that resides in the soul itself. Loneliness can manifest in a crowded room just as easily as in solitude. It is not measured by the number of people around us, but by the absence of connection, the sense that no one truly sees us or understands the depths of our being. The soul, in its vastness, is a territory that craves exploration, but it cannot fully navigate itself alone. To be lonely is to feel that the map of our inner world is unshared, its contours unknown to anyone but ourselves. This unshared burden can weigh heavily, for humans are creatures made for relationship, for the intertwining of thoughts, feelings, and experiences. In loneliness, the soul becomes a closed chamber, echoing with its own voice but hearing no response. This condition is not always born of external circumstances. Indeed, one can be surrounded by loving family, loyal friends, and supportive colleagues, yet still feel an emptiness that cannot be filled by mere presence. This type of loneliness arises from a deeper source, a disconnection not from others, but from the fundamental truths that anchor the soul. It is a longing not just for companionship, but for meaning, for the assurance that our existence is understood and valued. At its core, loneliness is a paradox. It is both a torment and a teacher. The torment lies in its ability to isolate, to make us feel as though we are cut off from the very fabric of humanity. The teacher, however, emerges when we begin to listen to the voice of loneliness, instead of merely fleeing from it. For in its whispers, loneliness reveals truths about our nature, our desires, and our relationship to the world. It forces us to confront the parts of ourselves we might otherwise ignore, the fears, the insecurities, the longings that we bury beneath the noise of daily life. Yet loneliness is not merely introspective, it is also deeply relational. It reminds us of our need for others, not just as companions but as mirrors of our own humanity. To connect with another soul is to break through the barriers of isolation, to feel the warmth of recognition and the solace of understanding. But in its absence, loneliness can be a cold and desolate place, where the soul feels adrift, untethered from the anchors of connection and meaning. The effects of loneliness on the soul are profound. It can cloud our perception of the world, making us see hostility where there is none, indifference where there is care. It can make us withdraw, not only from others but from ourselves, as if to shield the tender core of our being from further hurt. In this state, the soul becomes like a withered plant, yearning for the rain of connection but too parched to stretch its roots toward the water. Loneliness also shapes the way we view time. In moments of joy and connection, time seems to flow effortlessly, its passage marked by laughter and shared memories. But in loneliness, time drags, each moment stretching into eternity, as if to remind us of our solitude. The hours become a vast expanse to be endured rather than embraced, and the future, instead of being a horizon of hope, becomes a looming shadow. There is, however, a curious strength in the soul that endures loneliness. For even in its bleakest moments, the soul retains a spark of longing, a flicker of hope that refuses to be extinguished. This longing is not merely for the presence of others, but for something greater, a connection that transcends the fleeting and the superficial. It is a longing for truth, for beauty, for a sense of purpose that can anchor the soul even in solitude. The landscape of human relationships is profoundly shaped by the cultures in which we live. Culture, in its myriad expressions, defines not only how we see the world, but also how we see one another. It offers us the language, rituals, and norms that enable connection, yet it can also create walls that divide. Friendship, which is perhaps the most free and unbounded of relationships, is not immune to these cultural forces. In fact, the barriers erected by society often work silently, subtly undermining the formation of deep, genuine bonds. One of the most significant cultural barriers to friendship is the prioritization of utility over connection. In a world increasingly defined by productivity and achievement, relationships are often valued for their utility rather than their intrinsic worth. Friendships are seen not as ends in themselves, but as means to an end, networking opportunities, stepping stones for career advancement, or sources of material benefit. This commodification of relationships strips them of their depth and authenticity, reducing them to transactions rather than sacred connections between souls. This utilitarian mindset is further reinforced by the pace of modern life. The relentless demands of work, family, and societal expectations leave little room for the slow, organic growth of friendship. In a culture that glorifies busyness, taking the time to cultivate a meaningful connection is often seen as a luxury rather than a necessity. People rush from one obligation to the next, their schedules packed with activities that leave no space for the unstructured, meandering conversations that form the bedrock of true friendship. Social norms and stereotypes also play a significant role in erecting barriers to friendship, particularly for women. Cultural expectations often dictate that women prioritize familial and romantic relationships over friendships, leaving little time or energy for platonic connections. Moreover, societal stereotypes about women's interactions, such as the notion that they are inherently competitive or prone to jealousy, can create an atmosphere of mistrust that discourages openness and vulnerability. These narratives, while often unfounded, seep into the collective consciousness, shaping behavior and limiting the possibilities for authentic bonds. Another cultural barrier is the increasing fragmentation of society along lines of identity and ideology. In many cultures, people are grouped and categorized based on their race, class, religion, or political beliefs. While these identities are important and often sources of strength, they can also become barriers to friendship when they are used to draw rigid boundaries between us and them. The result is a world where people are hesitant to reach across these divides, fearing judgment, misunderstanding, or rejection. In such a climate, the openness and trust required for friendship are difficult to cultivate. Technology, while often celebrated for its ability to connect people, has paradoxically created new barriers to friendship. Social media platforms, for example, encourage superficial interactions that can give the illusion of connection without the substance. The curated nature of online personas often makes it difficult to see the true self behind the screen, creating relationships that are shallow and performative rather than deep and authentic. Furthermore, the constant barrage of notifications and digital distractions makes it harder to be fully present with others, a prerequisite for meaningful connection. Cultural attitudes toward vulnerability also hinder the formation of deep friendships. Many societies prize independence and self-reliance, equating vulnerability with weakness. In such environments, people are reluctant to share their fears, struggles, and imperfections, fearing judgment or rejection. Yet vulnerability is the very soil in which friendship grows. Without it, relationships remain surface level, devoid of the intimacy that makes them truly meaningful. Gender roles and expectations further complicate the landscape of friendship. Men and women are often socialized to approach relationships differently, with men encouraged to prioritize activities and shared interests, and women expected to emphasize emotional intimacy. These differing approaches can create misunderstandings and missed connections, especially in cross-gender friendships. Moreover, societal suspicion of such friendships, particularly between men and women, often casts a shadow over their authenticity, discouraging people from pursuing them altogether. Cultural narratives about success and status also undermine friendship. In societies that place a high value on individual achievement, relationships can become competitive rather than collaborative. People may hesitate to celebrate one another's successes or to be vulnerable about their own failures, fearing that they will lose standing in the eyes of their peers. This competitive dynamic erodes the trust and mutual support that are the hallmarks of true friendship, leaving individuals isolated even amidst apparent connection. Finally, the cultural emphasis on individuality over community creates an environment in which friendships are often seen as optional rather than essential. In many modern societies, the ideal of the self-sufficient individual reigns supreme, leading people to view relationships as secondary to personal goals and ambitions. This mindset not only diminishes the value of friendship, but also deprives individuals of the profound joy and growth that come from sharing their lives with others. The path to true friendship is neither straightforward nor easily traversed. It is a journey marked by challenges, requiring virtues that are often neglected in the haste and superficiality of modern life. True friendship, unlike mere acquaintance or casual companionship, demands more than proximity or shared experiences. It calls for a meeting of minds and hearts, a union forged in sincerity, understanding, and mutual growth. At the heart of this journey lies honesty, the cornerstone upon which true friendship is built. Honesty is not merely about speaking the truth, but about living it, being willing to show others who we truly are, stripped of pretense and artifice. Yet this is no small task. The fear of rejection, the desire to conform, and the pressures of social expectation often lead us to present a curated version of ourselves, one that hides our flaws and shields our vulnerabilities. But such a facade cannot sustain true friendship, for authenticity is its lifeblood. It is only when we dare to be seen as we are, in all our imperfections, that we open the door to genuine connection. Courage is another essential virtue on this path. To forge a true friendship is to take a risk, to step into the unknown without guarantees. It requires the courage to initiate, to reach out and say, "I value you," even when there is no certainty that the sentiment will be returned. It also requires the courage to persevere, to weather misunderstandings and conflicts, which are inevitable in any relationship of depth. True friendship is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to navigate it with grace, to seek understanding rather than victory, and to prioritize the bond over the ego. Humility, too, plays a vital role in the formation of true friendship. Pride is a great barrier to connection, for it blinds us to our own faults and makes us quick to judge the shortcomings of others. Humility, on the other hand, allows us to see ourselves and our friends with clarity and compassion. It enables us to admit when we are wrong, to offer forgiveness when we are wronged, and to approach the relationship with a spirit of gratitude rather than entitlement. A humble heart recognizes that friendship is a gift, not a right, and cherishes it accordingly. The path to true friendship also demands patience. In an age of instant gratification, where relationships are often expected to form and flourish at the speed of a text message, patience is a rare and undervalued virtue. True friendship does not spring fully formed, it grows slowly. Like a tree taking root, it requires time to deepen, to weather seasons of change, and to establish the trust that is its foundation. Patience allows us to give others the space to be themselves, to grow at their own pace, and to reveal their true selves in their own time. Another critical element of true friendship is mutual respect. Respect recognizes the individuality of the other, acknowledging their worth without attempting to mold them into our image. It is the understanding that a true friend is not an extension of ourselves, but a separate and equal soul, with their own thoughts, desires, and struggles. Respect fosters a relationship in which both parties feel valued and free, unencumbered by manipulation or control. Shared values and a common vision also play a significant role in the journey to true friendship. While differences can enrich a friendship, it is the shared foundation that binds it together. True friends often discover a mutual passion, belief, or purpose that draws them closer, a shared love of truth, beauty, justice, or some other higher ideal. This common ground becomes a compass, guiding the relationship and providing a source of strength during times of trial. Sacrifice is another hallmark of true friendship. While the term may sound dramatic, sacrifice in friendship often takes the form of small, everyday acts of love, listening when we would rather speak, offering help when it is inconvenient, or putting the other's needs above our own. Such sacrifices, though seemingly insignificant, weave a tapestry of care and commitment that forms the essence of true friendship. Vulnerability is perhaps the most challenging aspect of the path to true friendship, yet it is also the most rewarding. To be vulnerable is to open ourselves to the possibility of pain, to risk being misunderstood, judged, or hurt. But it is also to open ourselves to the possibility of profound connection, to allow another to see us as we truly are, and to see them in turn. Vulnerability creates a space where walls come down and trust can take root. Hope is the quiet light that flickers even in the darkest chambers of the heart. It is the force that whispers to the weary soul, reminding it that all is not lost, that even in the midst of brokenness, something beautiful can be born anew. Nowhere is this more evident than in the realm of relationships, where fractures and failures often seem final. Yet the story of friendship, like that of the human spirit, is one of resilience, a testament to the power of restoration and the boundless potential for renewal. To speak of hope in restoration is to acknowledge the reality of brokenness. Friendships, no matter how cherished, are not immune to the strains of life. Misunderstandings arise, words wound, and silences grow heavy with unspoken truths. Sometimes the rupture is sudden, like a tree felled by a storm. Other times it is a slow erosion, unnoticed until the bond has all but vanished. In these moments it is easy to believe that the damage is irreparable, that the friendship has reached its end. But hope, by its very nature, defies such finality. Restoration begins with a willingness to face the truth. This requires an honesty that is both painful and liberating, a courage to look at the wounds without flinching, to name the hurts and take responsibility where it is due. It is in this moment of raw vulnerability that hope takes root, for it is only by confronting the brokenness that we can begin to mend it. This process is neither quick nor easy, for the work of restoration demands patience, humility, and a steadfast commitment to the relationship. Humility is a cornerstone of restoration. To seek restoration is to acknowledge that we are not perfect, that we have failed or been failed and been failed, and that healing requires the participation of both parties. Pride, with its insistence on being right and its reluctance to admit fault, must be set aside. Humility allows us to approach the other not as a victor or a victim, but as an equal, sharing in the responsibility for the friendship's well-being. It opens the door to reconciliation, creating a space where both parties can be heard and understood. Forgiveness is another essential element of restoration. Forgiveness does not deny the pain or dismiss the wrongdoing. Rather, it is a deliberate choice to release the grip of resentment and to seek peace. It is an act of grace, given not because it is earned, but because it is necessary for healing. Forgiveness does not erase the past, but it transforms it, allowing the friendship to move forward rather than remaining shackled to the wounds of yesterday. Restoration also requires a willingness to rebuild trust, brick by brick. Trust, once broken, cannot be mended overnight. It is a fragile thing, easily shattered, yet capable of remarkable resilience when nurtured with care. Rebuilding trust demands consistency and integrity, keeping promises, showing up when it matters, and proving through actions rather than words that the friendship is worth fighting for. This process is painstaking, but it is also profoundly rewarding, for the trust that emerges from restoration is often stronger and deeper than before. Hope in restoration also draws strength from the recognition of the friendship's value. In moments of conflict or distance, it is easy to focus on the flaws and forget the good. But hope invites us to remember the laughter shared, the burdens lifted, and the joys multiplied. It reminds us that the bond, though bruised, is still precious and worth preserving. This perspective shifts the focus from what has been lost to what can be regained, fueling the resolve to pursue reconciliation. Community and shared support can also play a vital role in the process of restoration. Sometimes the rift between friends feels too vast to bridge alone. In such cases, the presence of mutual friends, mentors, or even family members can provide perspective, encouragement, and mediation. These external voices can help both parties see the bigger picture, reminding them of the love and respect that underpin the friendship, even amidst the pain. At its heart, hope in restoration is a belief in the possibility of transformation. It is the conviction that broken things can be mended, that what was once fractured can become whole. This hope is not blind optimism, but a steady faith in the resilience of the human spirit and the power of love to heal. It recognizes that restoration is not about returning to what once was, but about creating something new, something shaped by the lessons of the past, yet enriched by the promise of the future.